Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ghana Innovation Journal Breaking News segment. I'm your host, Tracy Nkrumah, and today we are diving into the future of agri-tech. For years, we talked about the potential of mechanization in Africa, but today's guest is actually building the hardware to make it happen. We are joined by Mr. Clinton Anani at 3Farmate to discuss the launch of FAMA, their field autonomous machine for agriculture. This isn't just a tractor, it's a self-driving solution designed specifically for the complexities of the African terrain. Let's get right into it. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role as 3Farmate?
Of course. My name is Clinton. My background is in driverless vehicles and machine learning or AI. I'm the co-founder and I'm one of the co-founders and I'm a CEO at 3Farmate, where our main aim is to bring automation into farming.
We want to begin with why Ghana has millions of hectares of arable land, yet we still struggle with efficiency. What was a specific aha moment that led you to build an autonomous robot rather than a traditional tractor?
Yeah, of course. Growing up, I never got exposed to farming in any way. And so the concept of how we cultivate food never really did dawn on me. But as I grew up, I started to realize that we still cultivate with hoes and cutlasses, and it just did not make sense. And so back in university, I came down with the conviction that there had to be a better way. And tractors seemed very plausible, but they were expensive. They just seemed out of reach. And the thing with tractors is that you still require the human touch to it to get it to work. And it just felt like a vulnerability point for us because even working with manual labor, you're unable to find people to show up on time, to show up when you need them. And that reliability issue just made it obvious that we had to build a solution that was not built around human labor. And quite frankly, it made more sense because we humans should be more focused on scaling farming rather than being out in the field, under scorchy sand, bending to do all kinds of tedious tasks which are even dangerous. And so that was our guiding philosophy, build something that did not require a human being. And it just made sense to build a robot rather than build a big tractor, which also built around a human and was very expensive, required tons and tons of hours of human training to be able to get good performance on the field. And so our philosophy was to build AI-powered robots that can think and act like human beings, basically to enable us to put more food.
That's amazing. So it's fully autonomous, self-drives itself to perform the tasks. Wonderful. FAMA is built for autonomous operations. For your audience who might not understand what AI does in your field or are skeptical about it, can you walk us through how the machine actually perceives its environment? How does it handle the unpredictable nature of Ghana's farm?
Of course, yes. So the underlying principle behind how we do self-driving is we are trying to mimic how a human operator would operate a tractor. And then we build that intelligence into the robots so they can traverse and act like the way we human beings would if we were driving a tractor, for example. And how we do that is we get it to understand what a field is first. And so we gather tons and tons of data, and then we train the model to be able to know what a farm is, to be able to know the different states of the farm, if it's plowed, if it's harrowed, if there's still weeds on the farm. And then we're able to get it to drive in a way that would enable it to perform specific tasks. It could be planting, it could be fertilizing, or weeding. And all these operations obviously contribute to making sure that we can grow more food. But the key differentiator here is that for us, we drive very close to how a human being would by having the AI reason and understand what the farm looks like. And for the same robots in the same class as ours in different regions, they extensively require GPS to self-drive. And GPS is great because it's available in your phone. You use it for Google Maps. Use it to order a ride, when you're moving around town. But in farming areas where signal integrity is not very reliable, it doesn't make sense to build technology around GPS where you wouldn't be able to get access to good signal to operate and function like others. And so for us, we're really constrained on that level, and we had to build a system that could self-drive without requiring GPS to do so. I think we've largely succeeded on that front.
Right. Thank you very much. Let's talk about technical capabilities and utility. Looking at the specs of FAMA, it's modular, right? And it handles seeding, spraying, and weeding. In a market where many farmers are smallholders, how did you balance high-tech autonomy with a need for a rugged, easy-to-maintain piece of equipment?
Yeah, that was really tricky because when you start out wanting to build something like this in a place like Ghana, your best options are just to import solutions and you get it to work. But when you do that, you end up with something that is really, really expensive and doesn't meet the pocket needs of farmers in Ghana. And smaller farmers make up over 90% of our farming sector. And so the way we approached our development process was that we had to build as much of our technology in-house, and we had to source parts from local suppliers. We had to make sure that we built something that was not expensive and that was mostly made in Ghana, so we could have the chance to control pricing. And I think we've largely succeeded on that front in being able to build something that is affordable. And we're currently the cheapest on the market so far. We're cheaper than manual labor. Most people don't believe it when we say it, but we are cheaper than manual labor per acre. We are cheaper than working with tractors or any farm machinery as well. And so our philosophy has always been build or make sure you constrain yourself to build for the local economy. Because if you build something that was very expensive, also functional, then it would just mean that we have to export and go to other markets where they can afford. And so we really constrain ourselves in being able to build something that's could meet the pocket needs of our farmers, and to also make sure that we could survive as a business while still making the technology available on all the sectors, planting, seeding, just like you mentioned.
Right. Thank you very much. Since you've started on cost, let's dive more into the cost aspect of it. So cost is always the elephant in the room. People don't like talking about it. And traditional machinery is often priced out of reach for the average Ghanaian farmer. What is the business model here? Is it that is direct purchase, or you are looking at robotics, supplying it as a robotics as a service model to make it accessible for the farmers?
I think for now, we are still experimenting on what an ideal business model would be. But what we are launching over the next couple of weeks is going to be a service-based model. And so if you, Ms. Tracy, for example, have 5-10 acres and you want to cultivate corn, you'll give us a call, we'll show up with the robots, we plan for you, and then we take the robot back. And so we handle maintenance, we handle operations. You simply just call to access the service. And that is a very key moment for us to be able to experiment with this model, because it gives us the ability to give farmers firsthand what the service would look like, just so we demystify this whole the talk about having to work with robots, because a lot of them feel the technology is alien, it's not meant for us, and all those things. And so that model just basically brings down the wall and gives us the ability to service farmers, get them to see what it looks like. And as we mature in the markets, we'll also understand how we can better position ourselves to capture more and more of the markets. But right now, we're going with a service-based model.
Right. So in Ghana Innovation Journal, we value data a lot. It's our core pillar. Does farmer collect data while it works? Can a farmer manage sitting here in Accra and see real time what is happening in Bono region, how the farmer is operating?
Of course. The vehicle is a data gathering beast, if I may. We have tons and tons of sensors around the vehicle, gathering from data around different aspects, from image data to soil data to atmospheric data. And all of that data is being used to improve how we operate on fields and to better understand better practices for improve yields, among other things. And we're also able to stream that data online to make remote access possible. And hopefully that's something that we'll be able to make available once we get to a sales model where you can own the robot yourself and you can operate it from anywhere else in the world, because it's fully autonomous, doesn't require human operator to control it or move it around. And so you'll be able to monitor it remotely as it's functioning. So yeah, we gather a lot of data, actually.
Thank you very much. So when you are in Accra, you'll be able to tell what is happening in a different region and see what is going on in real time.
In real time,
exactly when it's happening. Right.
Yes.
That's amazing. There's often a fear that automation replaces job, right? How does farmer actually change the labor dynamic on a farm? Does it replace the farmer, or does it elevate the type of work they are doing out there?
Yeah, this is often a very contentious thing to talk about. But the reality is that we are witnessing a crisis in the labor market for farming. That's the harsh reality nobody really talks about very often. There is an exodus of, especially us young people, from rural areas where farming happens to urban areas. And so someone who worked in some community somewhere in the eastern region, growing corn or tomatoes or some other vegetable, would easily say that if I show up to, if I move to Accra, then I ride a motorcycle, I'm able to make a lot more money than I am making working on a farm where I'm not really paid much. And so that exodus is happening. The rural to urban migration is real. And the industry is not able to get enough young people, able people to till the land. And that is the reality. And if that should continue, it means that there's only going to be very old people who should not even be working on the fields in the first place because obviously they're old, who have to grow the food for us. And that is obviously not a sustainable strategy long term. And so for us, it's a crisis that has to be addressed with technology in the best way. And it makes the work faster. It makes it more reliable. We introduce precision, and it's something that obviously will change the dynamics of farming. But the reality is that that transition from going from the old ways of cultivating the land to the new way is going to be one that a lot of people would find uncomfortable. But the good news is that technology developments like ours, they bring in new jobs, high skill, high paying jobs. They bring in training sessions because to operate the robot, you obviously need to be trained. And these are all avenues that we can double on to make sure that the technology truly is beneficial to everyone across the industry. And the bit that really excites me the most is other agribusinesses can build on top of our technology. And so we are building the core foundation that would make farming scalable. And so someone who previously had to go work the fields can now be a farm manager on his own because now he doesn't have to worry so much about labor. And these are all the dynamics that I think we can truly work together to make happen because the future is really exciting, given that we are able to address labor and precision with autonomous farming robots.
Okay, so in summary, it's going to create more jobs. You're going to train people. Definitely, the people are those operating them. Yes, so right, wonderful. Lastly, what does the roadmap look like for 2026? Now that FAMA is launching, what is the North Star for 3Farmate in the next 24 months?
The next 24 months, our biggest priority right now would be to make the service available. We are going from is there demand for robots like this to how much more can we make available based on demand. And for us to make that really happen, that is to make sure that anyone at all accessing or looking to plans for their next seasons would be able to access our services. And we're doubling down on manufacturing, we're doubling down on distribution. And so we'll be making probably a lot of announcements to make over the next couple of weeks, where we'll be partnering with aggregators, distribution partners, and other key agri-based companies who are helping farmers cultivate or who are cultivating on their own, just to make sure that the technologies are readily available. And we're also doubling down on having pilot programs with as many farmers as possible, just so we can give people a taste of what the service would look like and why they should start working with us. The biggest issue right now in the industry is trust. And when you build new technology like we have, you have to make sure that you win the trust of the farmers. Otherwise, it's just going to be another expensive piece of technology sitting somewhere else. And so our strategy right now is to make sure that we give them pilots, let them understand that this is not some, technology that is like sitting in the clouds. It's here. This is how you can access it. This is how it will work on your farm. And you'd have the results to verify for yourself on your farm. And once we're able to close all those pilot programs, the next steps would basically be to become a reliable farming partner for some of these crop production companies and farmers. And that's the one thing that we're trying to double down on. So over the next couple of months, next to 12 to 24, it will be to double down on distribution and manufacturing as well.
Wonderful. It's rare to see hardware innovation of this scale coming out of the local ecosystem. FAMA represents a massive leap toward food security, I would say, and tech sovereignty for Ghana. Thank you to the 3Farmate team. You're doing an amazing job, and thanks for sharing your journey. So to everyone watching us, you can find more details on this or about their launch as well at 3farmate.com, if I'm right. Yeah.
Correct, yes.
So for Ghana Innovation Journal, I'm Tracy Nkrumah, and I hope to see you all in our next one. Thank you very much for joining in. Bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.